Hello and welcome to Human Design, the basics. We are going to go into everything that you need to know to feel confident to begin your journey, your deep dive into your own human design chart. My name is Ashley Nicole, and I'm here with Bella Crystal. I would love for Bella to go into kind of what's her experience with human design and how has it impacted her life, so you can get a kind of personal understanding of what it's done for us, and then why should you care.
Yeah, I feel like my whole life changed. I feel like I came to kind of a point in my life where I tried to do everything perfect, but I wasn't happy. And my soul was on a quest to find what's true if all this wasn't true. And when I saw my human design chart and started to learn about it, it was not only a permission slip, but it was like a deep, deep recognition of my true expression, and that I didn't have to try to be something that I'm not. And as soon as I started to actually follow my design and allow things to happen naturally, so many things opened up for me. And what I thought I needed to like push and force and have willpower, suddenly that was not needed, and things started to happen much more synchronistically. And it was, for me, it hasn't been a choice anymore to, okay, should I do this? It's not like an exercise I decide that I include in my life every day. It becomes really like a path that you can't like really get out of, because it takes you on your true path in alignment. So for me, it has changed everything. It's been 8 years, and I feel like this is probably the most impactful system that I'm ever going to find, or that's ever going to find me. And what about you, Ashley? What happened for you, and what has changed for you?
I think the one, to sum it up in one word, you've said alignment. That was the biggest thing for me, is getting into alignment with who I actually am. I was on the quest to figure out, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And I started the entrepreneurial journey, trying to figure out what are my skills, what are my talents, what am I giving to the world, versus when you're in a traditional 9 to 5, showing up in the way that they want you to show up. I kind of got to create my parameters, create my box, how I wanted to be creative in the world. And I still felt like something was missing. I still felt like I wasn't being completely authentic. And I was at this business workshop and somebody showed me the chart, and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what this is, but like there was a deep, like resounding, like, like, let's sigh of relief, because this is what you were looking for. This is the answer to your question of who am I. And from then on, I started to strip down and decondition all the ways in which I was showing up, doing all these shoulds. Should do this, should be this, should get married, should have kids, should go to college. I just should my whole life away. And this allowed me to come into my unique expression and say, this is who I am. I don't need to apologize for who I am. I get to just show up and be me. And then I started, the biggest thing that I learned from human design was all about my authority, and tapping into the power of my sacral. And
Mhm.
instead of, because I was so unsure about myself, I deferred all of my responsibility to everyone else. What do you think I should do? How should I do this? I didn't even want to make any decisions because I didn't know what was true for me. But when I was able to tap into my sacral, that's where I was like, I feel more confident, and I know this is right for me, because it's like my whole body was saying yes to it. And I
Mhm.
just had to attune myself back to the yes or no that my body was willing to share if I asked. So that was the biggest thing for me. Well, so everybody's going to have their own reason why they kind of find this system, and what it's going to illuminate for you. So that's why we're going to want to take you into the chart, so you can understand it, so that you can begin to digest it. Because when you first look at it, you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at. Some people are going to just feel like, I can read this, I know what this is. And other people are going to feel, I need some guidance here. What's all this stuff on here? So that's where we're taking you right now. All right, so we are going to dive right into the basics of human design. Human design is a complex system, and it can go very deep. It's up to you to decide if you're going to want to learn the basics, or if after this you're going to want to go deeper. You're going to be able to tell very quickly if this system resonates with you and if you need to go deeper. There's going to be, this is more mechanical, and it really feeds that left brain mind. And if this is for you, there's tons of avenues. So what we're doing is we're going to give you the basics, the foundation, so that you're going to know what's your blueprint, how does your energy work, and how can you show up uniquely as yourself in the world. This is just going to tell you so much about your energy. So we're going to just dive right into that. Bella's going to take us into where it came from and how it was created.
Yeah, so human design is a combined system, and a man called Ra basically channeled the system. It is a combination of astrology, of I Ching, of the chakra system, and of the Kabbalah. What you probably have seen before is the astrological wheel. So where Ashley's pointing right now, it has all the astrological signs, and you probably even know the order of Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo. So that's the that's the mathematics of it. Then around the astrological wheel we have the I Ching, and these are like 64 oracle cards. All of them have a meaning, and they are just around the astrological wheel. So if you're born in Taurus and have your sun there, you're also going to be born in a certain hexagram of the I Ching, which is also what we're going to see a little bit later, the gate in human design. And then in the middle of this astrological wheel, we have the body graph. And this is what we can trace back to the chakra system. So those different centers are like chakras in your body. And in between the centers, you see that there are lines or channels, and that's the connectors. And here we can go to the tree of life in the Kabbalah and see how things are connected together and what they mean when they are connected together. So basically, these four systems are telling us something that I feel no other system has been able to so precisely give us a snapshot of how energy moves through our body and how we are connected with other people.
Perfect. So this is a human design chart. This is actually Bella's chart. And if you go to either Jovian Archive or My Body Graph or Genetic Matrix, those are the three sites that we work with that you can input your birth information, which would be the date of birth, the time of birth, and the location. If you're not quite sure about your time of birth, you're going to want to get as close to the exact as you can, because things change, especially in the moon, because the moon has a different kind of orbit than the other planets, where you're not going to have a lot of movement in Pluto. You're going to have a lot of movement, and the gates will change in the moon. So get as close to the time as you can, and you're going to see in this human design chart right here, we have all the planets, and it's basically the moment that you were born, you're going to have these different gates activated, and the planets have a personality and the gates have a personality, and so that's going to flavor who you are. Bella, what more would you say about the chart?
Yeah, I feel a very good thing to look at as a first thing is that you see that there are black and there's red. So you're going to have planets on one side that are all the black side, and it says personality on the top. And then on the other side, you're going to have all the red, and it says design. We can say that human design is an experiment where you come here, and it's a dance between your personality and your soul. So you have a role to play this lifetime, and that's your astrology. That's the only thing we look at in astrology. In human design, we have this other mystical imprint, everything that's red, that is your DNA, that is your soul, that is something deeper. And really, in this experiment, and when you start to feel into who you really are, you're going to have an alignment in yourself that is informed by your soul and by your personality. And that's the exciting thing. And that's why also I would say that human design is more precise than just astrology, because you can just really, it's already in your chart. You can look at it. It's not like with astrology that you need to know calculations and aspects and relationships between. It's really just there from the beginning. And all these black and red numbers are going to be mapped out in your body graph. So you're also going to see what center do they activate, where are they, what do they connect with. So it's really a snapshot of seeing everything that your personality activates, everything that your soul activates, and how do they work together.
Yes. And to get more of that terminology for you, we have gates, And the gates are going to be those circles that are colored in, and you'll see it's either going to be black, which would lead it to be the personality or your conscious, and then the red, which would be part of your design, which would be part of the unconscious. And so when you have two gates together, they make up a channel. So you're going to see terminology like channel or gate. Channel just means two coming together. And then again, we said that these are the planets, and these shapes are called centers. And we'll go more into detail about what each of these are. So these are the 9 centers that you see, and Bella mentioned earlier that they are associated with the chakras. You will notice, however, that we have 9 centers versus 7 chakras, and that's because as we have evolved as a species, 2 areas kind of split into 2. So you'll see that you normally see that the solar plexus is yellow, but here we have the solar plexus that has split off into 2. So we have the solar plexus and the spleen, and then your heart chakra has split off into 2. So we see the will and the heart, or the identity, or the G. And then the other chakras are the same. So we'll begin down at the root. So this is the root center. This is all about fuel. It's where you also can feel stress. And this is what's going to then fuel your sacral. So the sacral center is kind of like the engine in the car, and the root is the fuel in the car. So the fuel is what's going to power your engine. The sacral is all about sexuality, creativity, life force. And then we move into these 2 on the side. Remember, they split off. The rainbow one is called the solar plexus. This is all about emotions. And the spleen, the splenic center, is all about intuition, fear, health, and it's what's going to allow you to be able to survive on Earth, on this physical plane. Then we move into the will center, or the heart. It's called 2 different things depending on who you talk to. So the will center is all about willpower, motivation, and self-worth. And that's what you will find in this center. What you're going to find in the G, or the identity center, is all about direction, love, and identity, yourself, how you view yourself, who you are, who you show up as. The throat, also the throat chakra, this one is all about manifestation and communication. The ajna is conceptualization, and then the head is inspiration, ideas, and also another pressure center where you can experience anxiety. So as we link it back to the chakras, crown, third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, sacral, and root chakras. So those are the 9 centers. Is there anything that you wanted to add here, Bella?
No, I think that was a great way of explaining them.
Perfect. Now Bella's going to go into definition.
So you're going to see in your chart that you're going to have some white centers and some colored in centers. And that's important to know the difference. When you have white centers, it's like a filter. Everything that is on the outside, other people's pressure, culture, your past experiences, kind of everything comes into you, and that energy is influencing you. And you're going to have to filter that energy and know if you want to act on that pressure that comes from the outside. When the center is colored in, you are going to have energy that comes from you out in the world, and it's more like your expression, your consistent expression, and you're not going to be very influenced of the outside in those centers. We would say that the white centers are a little bit more a challenge because you are going to feel so much of what's outside. It's also an opportunity to be really wise about what's yours and what's not yours. So when we speak about today about empaths, we very much feel, I feel like we speak about it like open centers, like you feel so much. And it's not a downside. It's just to be really discerning about what's yours and what not yours. And it can be really good for you to retract yourself from other people and be relaxed and then know, okay, this is what I feel. It doesn't mean that if a center is white that you don't have a head or you don't have a heart or you don't have emotions. It's just that when you are with others, when you're out in the world, it can feel more like you're amplifying what's around you than that is really coming from you. So really good advice for you that have especially many open wide centers. Make sure you have some alone time. Make sure that you have a possibility to relax your body, so what isn't yours can kind of leave and you can come into what's the true expression of who you are.
Beautiful. So you're going to see, as what Bella just spoke about with the defined and undefined centers. So we see a combination here. So we have open, undefined centers here, closed, defined centers here. When you have no definition, no gates going to any channel or any center, that's called a completely open center. So we can see the solar plexus is completely open and the will center is completely open. And so those are areas where she's going to be gaining a lot of wisdom, because that's where other people are plugging in. Bella, because this is her chart, Bella's emoting these areas. These areas are where she is putting the energy out and where other people can read it. So if somebody has an open throat, they're going to feel the pressure of Bella's voice manifestation, whatever that is. If people have an open G, they're going to feel this is who Bella is. This is what Bella loves. This is Bella's direction. But here are the areas where people are going to plug in to her, and she's going to be reading them. So there is an opportunity to be telepathic, to understand how people's minds work, how they conceptualize things, how they understand things, and also how their emotions work. So you can see how there's a balance between the open and defined centers, and that just is what makes up Bella's energy. Would you want to add anything else about this and kind of how you experience the definition or any of this stuff?
I mean, there, like we were saying before, you can go so deep or you can stay more on the surface. You're going to see sometimes that our centers together like islands, and then there can be a different kind of plug in with other people. So just knowing that there's so many different ways the chart can look, even if everything is white in your chart, don't freak out because there is no right or wrong way. There are also people that have all the center colored in. So there is no right and wrong. It can look very, very different. It can really, so yeah, just knowing that you are going to have a very unique expression, and that's just showing that we're also differentiated. We're also unique. So to trying being like somebody else, that's really, that is done. You know, when this system is showing us how different we are, take that as a, again, like a permission slip. Take that as a relief that you are here to be you, and you're not here to function or express yourself as anybody else.
I love that. I'm so glad you said that, because that's so important. And the whole purpose behind human design is to allow you to come back into your individual, unique expression so that you're not comparing or competing. You get to just be yourself. And we all come from the same source. This is our individualized expression. This is our uniqueness. So if we come from the same source, we have that same source within us. So that spark of God, that spark of universe that's inside of us, that is always accessible. And that is what's going to connect us into that unity, connect us into that oneness. But because we're here in a body having this experience, our awareness and our consciousness is here. I'm being Ashley, she's being Bella. We have this filter. And this filter is what source is going to then manifest through. So you can see that the definition is what makes Bella Bella, and that is also the way that she's able to express source in the world. Bella's coming here to play the role of Bella, but it's still source on the inside. So we have the same source, the same spark, the same light. It's just manifesting differently. That's where that namaste comes from. We can all sense and feel that oneness and that unity and that spark of God within each of us. It's just, how is that playing out? How is that being expressed? And your design is going to tell you, how do you express that spark? So we're going to kind of go into the chart properties, because we did talk about the vocabulary. We want you to know the different types, the strategy, the not self-theme, the authority, and yeah, so let's just move into the next ones. So we are going to go briefly into this. The lines are a great aspect to go into. Again, you can go really deep with this. We're going to give you the surface level of this. Bella, did you want to explain the lines?
Yeah, you could say that the lines are actually mathematically a decimal. So you are born in what's the first number. So if we look at the black, 2.4. So you're born in the 2, and that's the main expression. However, there's going to be a tone or a decimal that tells us a little bit more how that main expression is colored, you could say. And we are looking in human design, especially on the top 2 ones on both sides. So here you can see that we have made in bigger, we have made 2.4 and 13.6. So that's the top ones. And we are looking at these decimals or lines. The way that they are named are lines, but actually I would say they're more like decimals. And in the top 4 ones, we call them the names that Ashley are pointing at. So the first line is the investigator, the second line is a hermit, the third line is the martyr, the fourth line is the opportunist, the fifth line is the heretic, the sixth line is a role model. So when you look at both the black side and the red side in the top, you're going to have 2 different decimals or 2 different lines. And that shows us kind of the tone of your expression, the personality of your expression. So here we have somebody who is an opportunist and a role model. And the opportunist, we could go in more into what that means. So I would say this is probably something that you would like to learn quite early in your investigation, to be what does it actually mean, because they are a little bit difficult to understand. But this is good to know, and you are going to be able to see this as when it says the profile in your chart. Maybe we want to go back to that slide and just show them where it shows up, the 0.4 and the 0.6. So here, the profile. So the lines on the 4 top gates is what's going to show you your profile. And you can just look at anybody's chart and be like, oh, that's a 1-3. Okay, this person is about investigation, and martyr is more or less like trial and error. So you're going to learn a little bit more about them, and very, very fast actually get a sense of how somebody is going to express who they are in the world.
Yes. Yeah. So from the beginning, just don't feel like you have to go into all the lines, because we can see we have a lot of lines on the side. The main thing is know what your profile is. Are you a 4-6? Are you a 1-3? Are you a 5-1? And then understanding what does that mean, because the sun and the earth, right, in your conscious and unconscious side makes up 70% of your personality. So your profile is super important to know. Later on, you're going to want to weave the gates with the lines. So, okay, what does it mean to have 16.2? We call the 2 the feminine archetype, and if the 4 is all about being the opportunist, it's also about love and community. How would you describe, just so that they have an idea of like how this is woven, what is the 2.4? What does that mean? What's the expression that might show
So the
up?
2 is the gate, and you can see it in the yellow center, and it's about being your own GPS, being your own way shower. And actually through that constant orienting, you can also show the way for others. So that's the main thing. The way that a person that has a dot 4 or a decimal 4 is going to show that is a lot through the heart, through speaking their truth, through being somebody who is very convincing about their own truth, so they can inspire others to also believe and tap into either their own truth or kind of also learn about that second gate and what that means.
Yes, perfect. So that's what you're going to want to investigate as you are looking into your chart is, let's learn about these gates. And then after you feel kind of comfortable with understanding what the expression or personalities as these gates are, then you can start weaving in the lines or the decimals like Bella was saying. We're not going to go into all the gates because there's 64 of them and we don't have a lot of time to do that, but you can start investigating that and understanding that. There's a lot of stuff online. We have things available as well, courses to take, and there's books as well. So if you want to investigate, you know that there's resources. Moving on to the 4 types. When you look at your profile, you're going to see right here, this type is a generator. And then you move over here and you can see that these are the 4 different types of auras, basically is what it's saying. So I'm going to go into the generator and the manifesting generator. These are 2 different types. Sometimes they say, oh, there's 5 types. The 4 types, there's 4 types here because the generator and the manifesting generator both have a sacral. The sacral is what makes you a generator. It's the life force energy. You're here to be the worker, to be the builder, to have consistent energy at your disposal. It makes up 70% of the population, and the aura type of the generator is open and enveloping. It means that maybe in a room of, let's say, 15 people, that generator can hold the energy of all of those people and kind of get an understanding of what is everybody doing, what's the energy of the room. Or if you're a mom and you have 4 kids like me, you can kind of feel into the whole house. Okay, I feel what people are doing. I can feel if anybody's in distress. It's kind of like having that mama bear frequency, right? And you can kind of understand like what's happening. Generators would be great teachers because they're able to hold the whole room versus maybe a projector that has a different aura that is more focused and absorbing, where they're just going to be focused on one person at a time, and they're going to have to take that tractor beam and move it over. So the generator has a bigger, wider aura, and it's open and enveloping, and it's attracting people to it. By just being yourself and being open to do what you love and love what you do, you're going to attract the right people, opportunities that you can then respond to. The strategy is all about responding. You're not here to initiate anything. You're here to respond to life. So waiting for things to come, be like, oh, does this feel good or not good? And then depending on if you get a yes or a no, that's when you move forward and start doing something with it or committing to it. The not self theme for the generator is going to be frustration. So you can look at this as being in flow or out of flow. So out of flow, you're going to feel frustrated. You're going to have to pause instead of forcing, instead of pushing, pause and ask yourself, where is there misalignment here? How do I need to course correct? The strategy, or I think that's what it's called, the strategy is satisfaction. So when you are in the flow, you're going to be feeling, oh, that felt so good. That feels so satisfying. And that's how you're going to be able to tell, am I in flow? Am I out of flow? Did you want to describe the manifestor, Bella?
Yeah, so here we have a very different aura. So if the generator has that cloud of warmth or frustration, depending on if it's in flow or out of flow, the manifester has a very different aura that is almost repelling, because the manifester is here to go about their own thing, and it's often doing things that have never been done in the world. So it's very important that the manifester informs, because we can't guess what the manifester is ever doing. So if the manifester doesn't inform, it can have a lot of people being surprised or telling them that that's not the way they can go about things. But just by informing, they can create more harmony in their life. And we see that the themes here are anger or peace. So that's why it is very good to inform, and that can actually allow them to not feel so much anger or not have so much anger coming towards them. So when the manifester is here to go about his own thing and inform about that, it can actually feel peaceful in its manifestation. It has a direction. Many people try to be manifestors, using their will, for example, to make things happen, but that's not really how most people are supposed to function. So this is a very specific 8-9% of the population has this very fast, very clear way of initiating and doing something, building something, like initiating in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the biggest hurdle that a manifestor might have to jump is that you need to know that you're not here to build to build your vision on your own. You're here to let others in to help you build that vision. So you're going to need to be able to articulate what's your vision, what are you building, how you want to do that, and letting people in instead of trying to do it all yourself, because you will burn out and it just goes against your design. You're here to have the vision and then bring the right people in to help manifest it into this world. And then we have the projector, which is 20% of the population. They have the focus in the absorbing aura. And like I said earlier, how it's different from the generator, they're going to be focused on one person at a time. And they're going to go really deep in that person. Whereas the generator kind of feels the surface level of things, the projector can get really down to the root and really down deep into that person, because they're here to manage. They're not here to work. They don't have a defined sacral. They don't have consistent life force energy. So they are the managers of the world. They're here to correct and guide and tell people, okay, do it this way or that way, or you'd be great in this area, or here's where I see you struggling, or anything like that. They're here to manage and guide people. The problem that a lot of projectors face is because they can see things so clearly of what needs to be corrected or how to guide someone. If you just go into somebody's aura and say you're doing it wrong, people are not going to be responding well to that request or demand. So it's important for you to wait for the invitation, wait for somebody to say, can you help me with this? Can you show me how to do this? Or can you help me see where I'm doing this wrong? Or can you teach me this? It's going to be important for you to have that invitation, especially when you're working with other people, because you don't want to feel that theme of bitterness. Bitterness is like, nobody listens to what I'm saying, even though I'm right, even though it's helpful, they don't listen to me. And then you feel really bitter. And oftentimes you're like, well, I don't even want to give advice because it's never received, it's never taken. So when you are able to wait for that invitation and wait for life to invite you, you're able to feel success. Now, that doesn't mean you have to wait for the invitation in all areas of your life. You can, it is important with all of these, listen to your intuition. What feels right? What's right for you? Don't just feel, oh, I can't do that because I wasn't invited. If you feel this deep urge and pull and it comes from inside of you and in your intuition, it is important for you to attune yourself to and respond to that, because that is GPS of sorts as well.
Yeah, I would add that especially it is when you are using your energy on something that you want to make sure that it's valued. That's the thing about invitation, because you don't have a circle that is filled in. You don't have like enormous amounts of self-generating energy. So you want to make sure that people are valuing you, and that can be in itself an invitation, knowing that you're valued. Then if you're valued, then you can go ahead. We just don't want you to. We don't want you to lose your energy on things where you're not valued.
Yes, that's an important thing to make note of. Would you explain the reflector?
Yeah, actually, I maybe have a little bit of a funny way of seeing the reflector. For me, the reflector is a little bit as a goose, and it's a bit like when you put water on a goose's back. It's kind of it kind of like just goes off.
Well
There
done.
is something with a reflector that is like a mirror thing, that it doesn't really get wet by that water. So we could say that actually the reflector they're very different beings from everybody else, and their aura is different from everybody else's. They are really here to reflect back what's going on. So if you put a reflector in a group of people, it's going to show you what's going on. And if all the other aura types are solar beings, the reflector is a lunar being. So it's going to take longer because it has this mirroring effect to actually really know its own truth. What we were saying before with all the open center is that we need to have a lot of wisdom. So that's why as a reflector, it's never good to hurry up and try to do things now, but to really allow time and even the moon to go through a cycle before you make decisions. And it's also something that's going to make you not be disappointed all the time. You want to allow more time before you invest completely in something. It's also good for you. I mean, this has more to do with authority, but it's good for you to kind of feel and see yourself interacting in the world. And yeah, I think that's what would you say more about the reflector?
Um, that was great. I agree. I feel like with reflectors too, you're here to feel good in where you're at, because you have a lot of openness. It's going to be really important for you to be around people that make you feel good and in a location that makes you feel good. You're not a victim to anything just because of your openness and not having a lot of definition. You're not going to feel very, very anchored. I don't know what it's like to be a reflector because I'm not a reflector, but from what I understand and what people have told me, my 1-year-old daughter is a reflector too, so I'm just learning as well. It's important for you to have a lot of experiences, to be able to experience disappointment and surprise, to be surprised by life, to hold life lightly. You are an important asset to the world. You're here to be able to mirror the state of the community, the family, the world that we're in. And you have a very wise and valid point about maybe how we can shift. It's just super important for reflectors to know their type. And once you know your type, your whole life is going to make sense. And like Bella was saying about waiting a whole lunar cycle, the world wants everybody to respond instantaneously. And when you are a reflector, you're going to need a whole lunar cycle to make a decision. You can't be rushed. And so you're going to have to continually stand for yourself and your strategy and say, hey, I'm not going to compromise here. I need time to make this decision. And so that's what's going to be really important for you, is to feel into what activates over the month, because you, like she said, you are going into a lunar cycle, and you are going to need to feel into what's activating now, because different parts of you are going to activate, so you get clarity on that. So taking note, writing in a journal, and then evaluating at the end of the lunar cycle, saying, this is right for me, this is not right for me.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're in the right environment for you, you are going to be surprised in a positive way all the time. So again, important when you have this much openness to find the environment that is good for you. So that what you're reflecting is kind of being a little bit like a chameleon, that change colors depending where you put it. So just knowing that, feel into your environment, and is that nurturing you? Because that's part of like what's going to be your expression actually.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. And then lastly, we have authority. So on your chart, you're going to be able to see authority, and it's going to tell you what type of authority you are. So the first type of authority we're going to talk about is emotional authority. So this is when your solar plexus center is filled in. Anytime you have the solar plexus defined at all, it automatically makes you an emotional authority. That is what is the default. If that's filled in, you're an emotional authority. And the emotional authority just means that you have to learn to ride the waves of your emotions. When your emotions calm down, that's when you make a decision. So your decision making process is going to follow these waves. So when you feel triggered, when you feel emotional, even excited, you need to wait until that excitement calms, so then you know, is this right for me, is this not right for me, and then make a decision that way. People who go and buy a car on a car lot and say, I'm super excited about this, I'm going to buy it, you're going to experience buyer's remorse more often than not when you're not following your authority, right? So if you get excited, you buy the car, you feel pressured, so you buy the car, you're going to have buyer's remorse. If you go there, get excited, then go home and sleep on it, in the morning you'll have a clear understanding if, yes, I buy it, no, I don't. So that's what's going to be super important for the emotional authority.
The sacral authority is about your energy, your life force. So it's how you use that. And if you use that life force in a way, it's like you have a treasure box with coins, and every time you do something, you put out a coin, you're using your energy. And at the end of the day, you want to feel satisfied, like whatever you put your coins on gave you something back, that you're regenerated. If you feel drained and frustrating at the end of the day, you haven't been using your energy right. So when you have that sacral, you really want to be in flow with life and feel like there's this give and take, and that your energy is regenerated.
Yeah, I love that coin metaphor. The splenic authority, because this is the center for intuition, it's going to be super important for you to attune yourself to your intuition. Your intuition is not going to be this really strong pull inside of you that's pretty loud. It's not going to be anywhere in your head where your mind is telling you what to do. It's going to be this gentle whisper, and it's only going to come in the moment. It's not going to repeat itself. It can repeat itself, but it happens in the moment. And so to attune yourself to that gentle wind, to that whisper, to that inner knowing, right? That's what's going to be important for you if you're a splenic authority.
And sometimes it can feel a little bit like an animal, like you just know why you don't want to eat that, or you just know where you want to go a certain way. So allow that kind of a little bit like an animal way of responding to life if you're splenic. And the ego is all about being true to yourself. Your follow your what it is that you want. So you're being true to your own. You have the willpower to do what you want in the world, but it's also listening to that and follow that, and not allow anything on the outside to sway you. You're here to walk your path and to be anchored and to be sure about that, I would say.
Mm-hmm. There's something too about selfishness, and how you're going to have to transform the way that you look at selfishness versus something that is serving you. Because a lot of people may say, "Oh, that's super selfish," or whatnot. You're going to have to be able to reclaim this authority and say, "I just know what I want. I just know that this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm putting my will towards," and it is possible to look out for the greater good of humanity, of collective, because you're going to feel that pull as well. It's not going to be just self-serving, even though it says ego authority, and everybody has this kind of oh, ego's bad. Ego's not bad. It's what allows us to survive and be here and learn what it is to be a person and have our own desires and our own will. So that's what I would say too about the ego authority. The self or the G authority, that one is in the center of the chart. It's going to be super important for you to make use of your voice and have like a sounding board. So you're going to either want to talk out loud or speak to yourself or even to other people and gauge their response to what you're saying. So it's really important to get what it is you're feeling out into words and offer that space so you can hear what you're saying. It's not necessarily to say something to someone and they say, oh, that's not right. No, it doesn't feel right when you hear it coming out of you. You're not saying it to get permission from anyone. You're saying it to get permission from yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the mental authority or the non-authority is different from the other ones, because the other ones are basically you tune in somewhere in yourself and then you're going to have a response. The mental or the non, you don't have really a place of tuning in. It's so much more like you are out in the world, and again, a little bit like the self or the G. You're speaking, you're saying something, and then something bounces back at you. Somebody tells you something, and then you speak to somebody else. So it's this kind of sampling in a way of different things that after a while, it's going to give you clarity. But I would say that's the most challenging one, and the one that probably takes more time as well, because you're going to have to be sampling the same we were saying about the aura of the reflector. So that one can be a little bit tough, but I feel like once you have felt a couple of times how it works for you, you're gonna have the process kind of mapped out, and then you are gonna know how to trust, how to make decisions in your life.
Mm-hmm. And you'll see that if you have no authority, you're a reflector, and so you wouldn't have the head or the ajna filled in. When you do have the head or the ajna, your authority is going to be a little bit like that reflector, and it is about sampling. And because you have a defined head and ajna, you're here to understand and conceptualize things. So whatever you're taking in, you're taking it in so that you can make sense of it in your mind too. So yeah, that is everything that you need to know about human design. And because me and Bella are very versatile in what we do, we also bridge the gap between human design with gene keys. So if you are interested in understanding about gene keys and that system and that journey, we have a masterclass where we go into the basics of gene keys, because we feel like it's very important to use both, to weave both, because they both offer different things that the other one can't. And so when you weave both of them together, you bridge the gap and you're able to have like a deeper understanding of who you are and how you can express yourself in the world. What would you say lastly about bridging the gap and just bringing this all to a close?
Yeah, because in the mathematics of it, we are using exactly the same numbers. So to say that no, they're different when we are using exactly the same, that for me wouldn't make sense. So it's really going back to looking at that and then say, yeah, they have to do with each other. And gene keys came out of human design. So it's kind of a development of it. We are really going to show you more about how they are connected together when we speak about the gene keys. So yeah, for me, it's just a very natural progression. When you're into human design, you want to go into the gene keys because it's the continuation of the journey. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I was just saying that it's a continuation, like you said, it's an evolution. And it started with the I Ching, and then went into the human design, and then went into gene keys. So I mean, following that path, following that progression, and not leaving the system behind when you move on. It's like you're always continually weaving. It's like spiral dynamics. Like you're not going to just end and die and just move on to the next thing. It's no, you're weaving everything you have learned and everywhere you've been into where you're at now. That's what creates wisdom, is not leaving anything behind. So I hope this was helpful, informative, and I hope that you have a little bit more footing and grounding in this system, so that if you feel the urge or need to dive deeper into that, you have all the tools that you need to do that. So if you need more help, you can reach out to us, or you can look through our website to see what we have available. We have a lot of information, courses, freebies on there. But I trust that you are going to be guided and directed exactly where you need to be, and you're going to pull exactly what you need to pull out of this system. While you may spend a day with it, and this may be the last time you ever touch it again, or you spend the rest of your life using it and deconditioning and moving into a more unique expression of you. By no means does this mean that this system is the only thing that's going to help you align with your true self. There's so many other ways to do that. So if you don't pick up human design, that doesn't mean you're not going to align with your true self. There's going to be something that resonates more deeply with you. So thank you for watching, and I'm excited to see where you go with this, and I'm excited to have you on this journey. Thank you so much. Bye.